I woke up early on August 19th, 2020. I went for a bike ride with a group of friends. I have no memory of leaving the farm that morning with my bike. I have no memory of the events that happened or anything for a 48-hour period. What I'm telling you is what the group that was with me relayed to me. I fell off my bike and was sitting up conscious. They knew something was wrong and they called 911. As soon as the police officer arrived, my heart stopped and my eyes rolled into the back of my head from a cardiac arrest. Within a few minutes, the emergency medical technicians started to perform CPR and provide oxygen for 34 to 38 minutes. I was deceased and had no heart activity. Then a 1 in a billion chance happened. A second EMT group that was passing by my location stopped in to see how the first EMT group was doing. The first group said that they had lost me. I had passed away, and there was nothing else they could do. In the second group, a senior EMT said that he liked the old heart stimulant better than the new one, and he had some in his bag. They were in constant communication with the hospital, and they said it was outside of the protocol to use both stimulants. They already had the first one and couldn't use the old one. The senior EMT, who I call my angel, said to them, "The guy is dead. We're just basically going to drive him in and go to the morgue." The hospital dispatch said, "Okay, give him the second stimulant." My heart started back up. I have no memory of 48 hours. I didn't see the light, and I didn't experience the full death experience because I had no memory of that period. But I have 3 very vivid messages ringing in my head. They seem to come from an angel. The first message was, "This is why you came here." This refers to moving from Nova Scotia 32 years ago. Otherwise, I would never have been revived. The second message was, "You can't take anything with you." This is very relevant to me, as I am probably one of the most driven individuals, and I'm a very materialistic person. The third message was, "Life is all about love and relationships." After that, my memory returns, and I go back to normal. I go back to my driven life, feeling lucky to be alive, but now I start to dream of dying. In my dream, I experience the actual act of dying and pass into the most beautiful, loving, warm, and welcoming place. This is truly hard to describe, but I've been listening to a lot of people who have had near-death experiences. It's exactly like this loving place you can't describe, but it's an incredible feeling. I continued doing as I always had, working hard and trying my best to have more materialistic experiences in life. Yet, I am at a point where I'm no longer happy or driven by my ego to succeed. Having more now doesn't make sense to me anymore. I become lost. I know the true meaning of life, which is love. I spent 2 years with a therapist in Boston, trying to make sense of it and help me function in life, but all I was doing was working out of my head. I never connected to my soul. I knew it was a soulful connection that would provide the true feeling of love I was looking for. I then began to search for the soulful answer. I knew it was the only way. Now my journey in life makes sense, and the world has opened up to the wonderful experience it's intended to be. This soulful path is something that was delivered to me from the divine. For the first time in my life, life starts to make sense. Unconditional love for yourself and others is the true human experience. I wake up every day and look at the sky and understand what a miracle we live in. I know that breath, the miracle of life, the miracle that we all experience here in our present form. I understand the importance of unconditional love for ourselves and other people in the world is our true purpose. I would consider myself the Wolf of Wall Street kind of person. Yet, the messages and experience of the feeling of unconditional love of the divine have forever changed me. I now have a new purpose for my life, to learn to give the unconditional love I felt to others. That does it for the first experience. Let's move on to our next experience. On March 28, 2019, I experienced what I now know to have been an ST elevation myocardial infarction heart attack. I managed to drive myself to the hospital, where I collapsed at the entrance of the emergency room waiting room. I was found, loaded onto a gurney, and whisked to what I now know was the cardiac catheter lab. I was in and out of consciousness and struggling to breathe. A squad of healthcare professionals surrounded me, and various members took turns leaning over me to yell instructions and questions. Being unable to breathe, I was unable to speak. This caused the squad to repeat the same questions louder and sometimes nose to nose. I just wanted them to leave me alone. Suddenly, I felt better. I wondered how they did that. Not only did I feel symptom-free, I felt great. I felt buoyant, focused, and incredibly peaceful. My reverie was interrupted when I heard another guy in the room making groaning and choking noises. I wondered who he was and how he got in there. I decided to have a closer look, as I was mainly interested as to whether they were rudely yelling at him as they had been at me. I approached and looked over their shoulders, and sure enough, they were nose to nose with him yelling, "Mr. X, stay with us, Mr. X." No way, I thought to myself. Here is ultra pleasant, and there is not. I'm staying put. It took me some time to figure out that if Mr. X was lying on that treatment table about 30 feet away, then who was having these thoughts and perceptions? The idea that I already had died crossed my mind. I realized that my internal dialogue was occurring in grammatically correct English, and that I was able to have thoughts, deductions, and decisions. I concluded that my brain's executive functions were intact. I decided to test my short-term memory. Sure enough, I could remember everything leading up to collapsing at the entrance to the emergency room. Not only that, but I could remember all of it in exquisite, vivid detail. I then decided to test my long-term memory and arbitrarily chose 8th grade. Immediately, I was furnished with a rush of detailed memories. The sharpness and vividness of those memories quickly overwhelmed me. Where could all that have been stored? I concluded that my long-term memory system was intact, and it was much broader and deeper than I believed possible. I began to get lost in the peaceful feeling I was experiencing. It was the peace that surpassed all understanding, and I wanted or needed nothing more, ever. I don't know how long I remained in this state, but I eventually decided to do a little exploring. Immediately, I found myself standing on a short grass prairie and gazing at the horizon. There were no trees, no roads, no animals, or any fences. It was just me and the endless prairie. As I studied the scene, I realized that out on the horizon was a black, cylindrical, horizontal cloud, skimming along the surface of the land. It stretched out of sight in both directions. I felt the immense energy that was headed my way. I was fascinated by the cloud and got lost in it. Suddenly, I realized that the cloud was death, or at least my brain's symbolic projection of death. I knew if the cloud touched me, I was dead. Two thoughts occurred to me. The first was that I couldn't understand why I still felt relaxed and peaceful. Shouldn't I be feeling pain, fear, or panic? A voice inside my head said, "No." The second thought was, shouldn't I be inventorying regrets and having a life review? Again, the voice inside my head said, "No need. You do a lot of that back in the world." And that was that. I turned my attention back to the cloud and was surprised to see that it had gotten much closer. It wasn't touching me yet, but with a running start, I could spit into it. I tried to form a thought, but was utterly unable to do so. I took this as a sign that physical death was imminent. I felt myself entering the gravitational pull of the black cloud. At that instant, I heard a voice from behind me, just over my right shoulder. The voice said, "Where's the tunnel of light? Where are the loving dead relatives beckoning you forth? Where are the angels of light urging you to fear not and be of good cheer?" The voice was compassionate, affectionate, and light-hearted. At that instant, I could breathe. I knew with certainty that I would live. I re-inhabited my body with a thud, a development one would think would cause great jubilation. It did not. My first thought was, this thing feels like it's made of wet concrete. It must weigh a ton. I'll never be able to move it. How does anyone do it? Then I went unconscious for an indeterminate length of time and awoke amidst all kinds of electrodes and beeping equipment. The nurse happily informed me that I was a lucky man, that I had just survived an ST elevation myocardial infarction heart attack. My recovery produced some amusing anecdotes, but was surprisingly easy. As is suggested by the above, I had some prior information on NDEs because I had read several NDE accounts back in the 1970s. I never floated. I never entered a tunnel of light, and I was never melted by the overwhelming awe and unity of the universe. The afterlife and the experience of consciousness without corporality seem like givens. For me, the takeaway of my experience was, nothing hurt, and the afterlife tenderly awaits your arrival. That does it for today's experience. As always, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Until next time, stay safe and continue to be blessed.